Hey guys, and welcome back to the ASX Investor channel. Today we'll be discussing Kuniko. ASX KNI have had one of the hottest starts to life on the ASX after IPOing this week. Kuniko was up by over 300% on their IPO day, and after their second day, they'd risen by over 10 bags. It's a phenomenal run, but there's been a lot of questions. Who is Kuniko? Who is this junior explorer? What is the story behind them? And then why have they risen so sharply and so rapidly? In today's video, we'll be unpacking it all. We'll talk about the Kuniko story, where they've been spun out from, and what the future might hold. Before we dive in, we do daily videos on the channel, so if you're new around here, welcome. Make sure you've subscribed and turn your bell notifications on so you don't miss any of our episodes. And if you do enjoy the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. A reminder that I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing we talk about on the channel is financial advice, and the stocks we cover are definitely not buy recommendations. These videos are just here as a general discussion to be that starting spot for you to do your own research from. So with that, who is Kuniko? Kuniko are a junior exploration company. They hold mineral exploration tenements in Norway. Of course, we know that there's an accommodative European government at the moment that's really helping to push and drive this transition towards electric vehicles. And we know that there's a real focus moving towards carbon neutrality around the world as well. Kuniko was spun out from Vulcan Energy Resources. I'm sure many people are familiar with ASX VUL and the story there. So there was naturally a lot of interest with Kuniko. Vulcan still do hold around a quarter of Kuniko's shareholdings as well. So Kuniko have got a number of different projects, 3 main projects with copper, nickel and cobalt. Of course, each of these individually are materials that are going to be feeding into that EV battery material supply chain moving forward. We know it's definitely a hot sector for now, and it continues to pick up pace and momentum as the EV adoption continues to grow. Along with that, Kuniko, like its parent company Vulcan Energy, has a commitment to electrified net zero carbon production process, like Vulcan's zero carbon lithium extraction process as well. And as discussed, Norway is quite an accommodative environment. We know that Scandinavian countries have very renewable energy sources, and this helps to ensure that with renewable energy, it's going to bring down the embodied energy for the production and for the actual ultimate extraction of the resources. And so here's Kuniko's offering in a glance. You can see here that they've got 3 projects, copper, cobalt, as well as nickel. Each of these materials are going to be key inputs into the EV battery supply chain, but also individually as well. Each of these are going to be important to feed into the economic recovery that we're seeing pick up pace as the recovery around the world continues to improve. Kuniko's resources actually do have histories themselves individually. They're not new resources. Each of these tenements, as previously discussed, were spun out of Vulcan Energy Resources. They've spun out their non-core material projects, which allows them to focus on their zero carbon lithium extraction process. They've got quite an experienced team here spinning out into Kuniko, so it'll be interesting to see where the ASX KNI story heads from here. Would love to know your thoughts, so drop in a comment below what you think about Kuniko, what you thought about the rapid start to life on the ASX. It's definitely been very volatile, that's been inherently speculative. There's been a lot of fluctuations as a result of the excitement surrounding the share price. So I'd love to know your thoughts about where the ASX KNI story heads from here. And so here was some commentary from one of the recent announcements from Gavin Rezos, the chairman of Kuniko. It's quite a good summary of the opportunity that Kuniko is looking to play into. As we know, the European region is looking for more sustainable supply of ethically mined battery metals. Of course, we understand that yes, there's a lot of excitement about getting as many metals as possible. We know that there's going to be supply shortfalls that are likely to continue to expand moving forward as the EV adoption picks up pace. But there is also going to continue to be more and more of a focus on ESG sourced metals, as ultimately, customers may eventually pay a premium for this because it's going to be important as they try to bring down their embodied energy and we move to carbon neutrality as a broader society. Gavin Rezos stated that Norway has a long history of mining. They're a world leader in renewable energy production, which of course will help with their projects as well. And they're looking to reinvest into the mineral deposits as they transition away from fossil fuels production. Kuniko aims to extend their historical battery metals resources on their project sites while applying modern exploration and processing methods, while applying the same ESG culture to their projects that of course were so successful with Vulcan Energy Resources as well. And so this was an announcement that came out over the past couple of days that really attracted a lot of interest in ASX KNI. They've stated that the exploration activities have commenced for Kuniko. You can see here that some of their different resources, the Scooterhead mine, produced over 1 million tonnes of cobalt from 1773 to 1898. So it's got a long and storied legacy history. It was actually the world's largest cobalt producer and the largest company in Norway back then. The Van Grofte license as well hosted a historical mine, which had small-scale production as well up until 1908. So their resources do have history, they've got the experience, and so now it'll be interesting to see what Kuniko can come up with their exploration activities, particularly with the new technologies and the focus that they'll be going at them with. And so with that back context in the story, it then leads us to IPO day and an absolutely rapid start to life for the ASX KNI story. Their initial IPO price was at 20 cents. They came onto the market on their first day at IPO at 80 cents, so they were already up around 300%, and they closed in and around those levels before closing on their second day above $2. So for those initial people who got filled at IPO, they'd already made 10 bags. It's an absolutely rapid uplift. There are a few contributing factors that drove to this excitement. Firstly, the EV battery materials space continues to soar. We've seen this from many companies, including Vulcan Energy Resources themselves, as well as many other lithium producers and the junior explorers in the space. We know that ASX VUL has been one of the top performers over the past year, not only just from the lithium sector and the resources sector, but across the broader ASX. And so there was a lot of excitement potentially about Kuniko if it could hope to replicate some of that share price growth. They do have a tight share register with low shares on issue as well. This, of course, contributes to when there's an increase in demand. It means that investors are going to have to pay up to try to get access to that. And there was a range of different publications and different news spaces and articles that covered the launch. A lot of this excitement drove to a significant pump. As you can see here, the share price really hit quite a FOMO stage, driving up by above the $3 mark at one stage, which was an absolutely huge uplift. It did moderate towards the end of the day back in and around that $2 mark, but there was a lot of FOMO driving the share price moves. There was a lot of sentiment driving the moves. It did look like at some stage the fundamentals had disconnected from the rational share price, but it will be interesting to see where the dust settles now. And so then the question really is, what happens now? As we've outlined, day one, plus 300%, day two, up by over 10 bags, and then some, depending at what point of the day you were looking. I think it's worth thinking about everything in context. So Kuniko is an early stage junior explorer. They definitely have a long runway ahead of them. It's not as if they're ready to move into production or really start their development now. They're still in the very early exploration stage. I think it's clear and evident that there was a significant amount of day trading and speculation going on for the initial days on market. There was a lot of excitement and hype surrounding this IPO. So on the back of that, I think there was a lot of FOMO and people diving in. It is a reminder as well that once sentiment can get into the share price, often the fundamentals can disconnect from rationality in the share price in the short term. Now, of course, that does not invalidate the long-term opportunity for a company like Kuniko. They're playing in a fascinating space. The materials that they will hopefully be producing, if successful, are going to be critical components to a supply chain that's got a long growth runway ahead of them. But in the short to medium term, I think it's clear that the share price had disconnected from the fundamentals. There was a lot of sentiment, hype, and FOMO in the short term. It's very difficult to anticipate where a company like Kuniko will trade over the next period after such a rapid uplift in share price. There's going to be naturally a lot of eyes on the ASX KNI story because of its close connection to Vulcan Energy, as well as, of course, a significant excitement that's really made it pop up on a lot of radars. So for now, it's still in the early stages. Kuniko is an IPO and a launch that many people will always remember after the rapid uplift that it did have. But now investors will be watching to see where the story heads from here. Now they've come to market. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Feel free to share it out. This past period, we've interviewed a range of different ASX listed CEOs on the channel as well, so we'll leave links to those up above that you can check out after this one. We're the ASX Investor channel and we make daily videos talking about the stock market investing, and we find and analyze the best growth stocks. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you've got your bell notifications turned on as well, so you won't miss a daily episode, and we'd love to have you join the community. A reminder that nothing that we talk about on the channel is financial advice. The stocks we cover aren't buy recommendations. Everything's just a general discussion to be that starting spot for your own research. We'd love to know your thoughts about Kuniko, so drop in a comment below what you thought about the past few days and where you think it'll head. Thank you for joining us. For now, stay well and happy investing.